I'm going to start with the Irish Daily Mail, and the back page here is "We Are Family," and it's Connolly needed dub structure, says Darcy. So Declan Darcy has been doing interviews, quite wide-ranging interviews, and he said that ultimately the decision to bring Diarmuid Connolly back, first and foremost, what was really important for us was the care of Diarmuid. Things weren't going well for him, probably outside of football, and I think he needed football, he needed structure, and whatever about whether he was to function within our group or not, to bring him back into the group was the right thing to do. So that makes a lot of sense from Dublin's perspective then, if you just implicate the decision isn't really about football, it's about just, he's one of us, we're going to look after him. I'm sure, though, if you were a sub, there must have been a little bit going, there goes my game time.
Maybe, yeah. But they've been pretty remorseless over the last few years, and it's the way they've built it. I actually think that probably does ring true. They strike me as the sort of group that they would bring him back in for that reason. But yeah, I think he talks about there about how it would affect the group or whatever. I think McCaffrey came out during the week saying he was buzzing for the first training session back. There's a lot of guys in that group, subs or not, who maybe had their game time cut down, who there's a whole cohort of that team who realise what he did for them for 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Maybe this 5 and doesn't exist without him. Yeah,
it probably doesn't. Certainly there's moments of magic there that he's brought to that team, and I think there's still a whole pile of that team would respect that and be very, very happy that he was back as part of the group again.
Yeah, and his second half performance, it was kind of there were elements of pure genius in it.
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about the pass to Kieran Kilkenny, but the turnover in the tackle is unbelievable. Yes. Before that, he dispossesses the man, and 3 seconds later it's on the opposition 21, and there's no one else in that field can do that. Even right till the last minute, he's supporting that inside forward line, and he's a presence there that really drove them on in that second half. Even if he wasn't being the one on the scoreboard or whatever, he was just look, I think had he stayed playing for the last couple of years, we'd be talking about would he be one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that over the last couple of years, people they want to see him so much that it's gone against him.
Yeah, I hope that he sticks around next year. There's no chat of him retiring at this stage, and has a full season.
Yeah, well, you come back refreshed after maybe a year out of it, kind of reignites the flame again for another few years.
Yeah, so. Yeah. What have you got?
On the back of the Sun, as you talked about earlier on, it's 6 drugs and rock and roll. A nice apt headline. Jurgen Klopp talking about his players who haven't gone nuts over the summer since their win, and that they're addicted to winning going forward. De Gea has signed a new £350,000 a week deal at Manchester United. I think had been mooted for a while. And the last up the top, we have the GAA ground control. It appears that Dublin won't play 2 games at Croke Park next year. I think there'd been
it's really difficult to sort that out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Such a difficult thing to sort out, not having 2 home games in three match tournament.
Yeah, I think bringing. I think if they were to play Kerry or something in Thurles, it'd have a
sensational.
Yeah. There's plenty of grounds around the middle of the country that can host those games, and if you put 30 or 40,000 into those stadiums, it's an unbelievable atmosphere. Whereas unfortunately in Croke Park, it's just it dies a small bit.
I think as well, if there are the retirements that we think there will be, then there's going to be a sense of jeopardy. More Dubs fans will go to those games because they'll feel like there's a chance of them losing.
Yeah.
They'll just mean more, The Irish Independent, Dublin to be forced out of Croke Park for neutral games, the same story there. Colin Key says that one. And that's Andrew Conway putting his hand up in training because Rob Kearney is now a serious doubt for the game against Scotland with a calf injury. Calf and quad, I think. Or certainly just saying calf there. And so he's going to be gone. Robbie Henshaw's going to be gone. Keith Earls is still in a race to be fit. And, of course, we haven't seen any Joey Carberry play any meaningful minutes. So suddenly leaves the back line looking like not our first choice back line anyway.
Yeah, they just don't have any luck when it comes to a World Cup, do they, like over the last few years? But yeah, it is a small bit worrying. Kearney is the rock there that the rest of them play off. So yeah, like that Scotland game now becomes huge, you know, and that is it's a tricky group.
Yeah.
People said at the time that it's very easy. Like you have the hosts, Scotland, and I wouldn't like to be going into the last game against Samoa looking for something.
No, and like you wouldn't want to be one of those players who has to go into battle against Samoa because I think Ron O'Gara was with us recently saying players are going to get injured in that game. That's how those games work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions about retirement in the papers, like Colm Keys names Owen O'Gara, Darren Daly, Bernard Brogan, Paddy Andrews, Rory O'Carroll, Michael Darmacawley, Cian O'Sullivan and Kevin McMenamin, who all have a decision to make at some point in the near future. I thought Michael Darmacawley had a great season. Yeah,
he was unfortunate to miss out. He was, you know, himself and Fenton ask a lot of different questions in that midfield.
Yeah.
Like Fenton is this Rolls Royce, and then Macaulay he's such a powerful runner. He's very, very physical, you know, and he really, the two of them complemented each other very well. I think it was more, probably the decision to leave him out was more in response to the way Kerry had played, and getting someone else in there to do a job on Jack Barry and Brian and David Moore. I think the retirements angle, I think a lot of it is going to come down to what Jim does. A lot of those players have soldiered for a long time with him, and if it's a fresh voice that goes in there, then maybe they might say, you know, I've given my time now.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, you know, going through the process of trying to get on the trust of the manager again. So I think
and some of them, a new manager might come in and go, you've been a great servant, you've got your 5 in a row, I'm probably going to go with one of the younger lads to start with next season. You might not get your place back.
Yeah, well, if it's a 3-year thing for that new manager, or if it's a 3-year contract, their first year, like maybe they're looking at those guys and going, they won't be here for 3 years, so
yeah.
I need to start to build something for when they're gone, and that's how it happens. But look, I mean, the people named in that list have given a huge amount to Dublin football, and it will be completely on their terms if they decide to leave.
Yeah, now Jim Gavin's a young man. He's 48, and Desi Farrell, Donncha Boyle is saying, is most likely the next Dublin manager if Jim Gavin goes. Jim Gavin could decide, you know what, I'm actually really enjoying it. Look what we've just done. We can go on and do this for another.
Yeah.
I can be Brian Cody. I can be Mickey Hart. Like, who knows?
Yeah, Jim is the only one who knows that. Yeah, it's a very tough one to call. I think the main reason people are probably speculating is because you're in completely uncharted territory here. Like, you know, nobody knows what it's like to reach that summit of 5 All-Irelands in a row and how it makes you feel. Does it energise you to go again, or does it leave you going, spent. That's it now.
Yeah.
That's it. I've given everything I have to this.
Yeah. Maybe Kieran Kilkenny and Conor O'Callaghan decide they want to be hurlers. Like, you know, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that Con goes, right, I've done that, I want to go and do this because I'm just as good at this other thing over here.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen somehow.
I mean, you know, it's not impossible.
Yeah, it's not impossible. It's not impossible, but I'd think...
He's only 22, he could easily do it.
Yeah.
That'll be some story,
He'll also
it?
go on to be one of the greatest footballers of all time if he keeps going at the rate he's going, so yeah. I think that's enough of a legacy to leave behind.
It's not a bad legacy, fair enough, but what if you were to win an All-Ireland hurling title with the Dubs?
Yeah.
Having been, like, a member of the 5 in a row team.
Yeah,
that's not a bad legacy.
It does, yeah. You become the next Jimmy Barry Murphy, really, don't you?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah. No, you might be onto something there.
And suddenly they look beatable, you know?
There's a few straws being clutched at there now.
Hey, we've got to clutch at whatever we can get. The rule changes, we should get to that as well, because obviously the second tier championship, the structure of it, the rule that's going to be voted on was made public, or certainly, I don't know if it was leaked or if it was emailed out in a press release yesterday. The other thing is, though, that I wanted to talk to you specifically about was the advanced mark, right?
Inside the
forward line.
Yeah.
Yeah, so provided the kick comes from outside the 45 and travels a minimum of 20 metres, that's going to happen.
Yeah, I missed. I missed pretty much the whole league where it was trialled. I think the kick-out mark has been a massive success, and I think what people want to do is to start the kicking into the inside forward line to come back. I think what you might find with that inside mark is it'll only be in a situation where a forward catches a ball and is off balance or falling down that you'll see it used. Most of the time forwards will take it on. It's a natural instinct.
So Gainey made a catch, an amazing catch on the 21.
Yeah.
No score came off it.
Yeah, it's that situation where you might have two men around you or you're off balance, but if you get a couple of the balls that Conor Callaghan got where he's out in front catching, I think he's turning and taking on his man.
Because he thinks it's a goal.
Yeah, I think it's a big, I think that rule is a big, it's tough for defenders. It's very, very tough for defenders.
How the hell do you mark Tommy Walsh?
Yeah.
And does it not change the game in a way that doesn't need changed that much? Do you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like suddenly every county is looking for a 6'7", 6'8" inside forward who they're going to lorry ball in on and hope that he can...
I think defences are too good in this day and age to allow that to happen though. The reason why Kerry, and we talked about it here actually on the board, the reason why Kerry are so good is because they get into the right area to deliver that ball where it's diagonal and he makes a straight run and it's very hard to defend against. But like the day coming up to a 65 and launching this big high ball in, that's a very tough ball to go and win. Like I don't think it'll change the game massively. I think during the league everyone said the same thing. They said it's very, very good to an extent, but it's not actually really changing the outlook of a team. Teams aren't, they're not looking for the high one. It's more the...
It was such a weird situation though.
Yeah, where some certain teams just didn't do it at all.
The Dubs tried it at one.
Yeah, they were just like, it's not going to come in, so we're just going to take it that it's not going to come in. But maybe is it a response to the mass defence over the last few years? I think it needs to be maybe trialled again. But
you should certainly be willing to throw it out if it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
We don't really want the game to be Aussie rules, do we?
No, but I mean, how many times in the first game did we look at some unbelievable fielding in the middle of the field and go, Jesus, that was brilliant. And the Gainey catch which you referenced there, like it was, again, brilliant to look at that. It's something that Gaelic football was missing for a few years, where the high catch was nearly being penalised because of what was happening on the ground. Yeah,
okay, fair enough. The second tier of
the football.
What do you think?
I think it's dancing around the inequity of the provincial system. Like, I can understand the tiered championship. The girls, our ladies, had a brilliant victory in the intermediate there on Sunday, and it's great for teams to have that opportunity to go and play and win in All-Ireland. But I think the problem, and it's probably the players especially, is the promotion of the games will die for that second tier championship. We've seen what happened with Ireland, and I think that's the biggest thing for the players is, do you just get left behind? Then, as I said, the provincial situation is, like, if you're a Division 3 or 4 team in Leinster or in Ulster, it's very, very tough on you.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to the other two provinces where there's 5 and 6 teams,
Yeah,
it's very tough.
So
on those,
I'm going to read out the proposal. The provincial championships will be played as currently. The Ireland qualifiers will be open to teams from Divisions 1 and 2 and any 3 or 4 teams who qualify from their provincial final. So basically, if you're a Division 3 or 4 team, you've got to reach your provincial final. This will mean only 2 full rounds of All-Ireland qualifiers in future as opposed to 4. An additional preliminary round is provided for in years where more than 8 teams are eligible to participate in round 1. So there'll be an extra round of qualifiers if you got 4 Division 3 teams or Division 4 teams qualifying through. And then you introduce a new straight knockout Tier 2 championship. So after that is all over, after you get beaten in your provincial championship, then you go into a Tier 2 championship for Division 3 and 4 teams that don't reach the provincial finals.
Yeah, like is the Super 8's just gone now?
I think that
is it still incorporating it?
I think it was, yeah. But the Division 3 and 4 second tier championship doesn't mean anything. You don't get promoted. You don't get...
Yeah, you don't get to go into the following year's first tier, which kind of defeats the purpose. There needs to be some sort of reward at the end of that, so that if you do go and win a championship, you know you're guaranteed a place in the following year's.
There's a reason for it.
Sam Maguire, you know, and that would be a nice link between the two. You know, you see the Europa League champions, the difference it made when the Europa League champions go into pot 1 in the Champions League for the following season.
Yeah.
Do you know, and that's a very easy fix in there. But I'd like to, you know, a lot of the time it comes out. I'd actually like to see maybe just a study done with players who are from traditionally Division 3 and 4 counties and ask them, you know, we've had a bit of success in the last few years. We're back down Division 3 next year, but like, you know, players who've played in Division 3 and 4 all their lives, like, how do they feel about it? Do they think that this championship is actually a good idea, that, you know, they have a realistic chance of winning something, or is it another thing where you're just like, I'm disinterested in that and it's ultimately going to drive me away?
If it was connected to the next year's championship, I think it would transform things. Like if you were automatically, if it wasn't a Super 8 anymore, but a Super 7 plus 1, and that plus 1 was the next year, then maybe this thing might actually work.
Yeah, or can you run it off? Can you run it off while the other qualifiers are going on, where the winner of the second championship goes in?
You could.
Goes in, but then is there teams in Sam Maguire going, hold on a second, we have a better chance of going through here if we
losing this first round.
But like, look, you can't win. You can't. Like, I understand why they're doing it. I think a well-structured second-tier championship might work, but it's going to take a few iterations before you get to something that everyone's happy with, I think.
If only we had like a league system that gave us an example of how it would work.
Yeah.
And the league is producing the best, most competitive football for crowds who actually enjoy the games in provincial grounds.
It does put a lot more emphasis on the league, though, because it's based on your league standings, which means, you know, if you can't be. But what happens? I'd like to know what happens with the two teams relegated out of Division 2 and the two teams promoted out of Division 3.
I presume that year you're still a Division 2 team, a Division 3 team, and
you see, they're the small things which can really change this, where like if you're a team that's promoted out of Division 3, you know you're in the Sam Maguire for the following summer. It's a much bigger
carrot
fillip than and for teams that are relegated, you know, it ultimately, you know, it signals the end of your time in the Sam Maguire for that year as well.
Yeah. So those games will actually mean something. On to the Irish Times here. We'll come back to all that. If you've got any views on it, it's 8 o'clock this morning. If you've got any views on that, you can get us at the hashtag OTBAM. Great worry is that Dublin have become unbeatable, is the headline on Kevin McStay's column. Liverpool in action against Napoli tonight. Liverpool still have everything to prove in Europe, says Klopp. Can they go back to back? And they're saying the proposal to limit Dublin's Croke Park matches must wait until 2020. I thought so, as in
it's a separate proposal, I would say, to limit their chances of playing at Croke Park in Leinster, I suppose, as well, is it?
Oh, is that the one where they're going to get straight through to the semi-final in Leinster?
It must be, yeah.
As opposed to the Super 8 games. Okay, and then here is Jerry Thornley's column today. Birthplace has no bearing on your right to play for Ireland. So Jerry Thornley's fighting back against the... in particular, he says, Luke Fitzgerald's, this one here, some of the complaints are for purely rugby reasons, even if the notion expressed again this week by Luke Fitzgerald that a player's birthplace should in any way influence Ireland's selection policy in this World Cup is plain daft. He points out the absolute rank hypocrisy of New Zealand having a go at Bundy Aki, who was it, Ian Foster, talking about Bundy. They've turned him into an Irishman. He looks like an Irishman now, doesn't he? Which is, you know, pretty racist, really, when you think that people have to look like the country that they are ethnically from, because, you know, there's nobody born here from all around the world who, like, doesn't look like the place that they were born. It's ridiculous stuff from Foster. But then he goes on to talk about Pichot and his plans for World Rugby not actually helping the island nations. So there is rank hypocrisy throughout this, which is a good point. And it's a bit of a counterbalance to the argument that the residency rule is ruining rugby.
Yeah, I don't think it's as black and white as people make out. It's been going on for years in the Southern Hemisphere. I know Kevin Kilban was on, and he was kind of saying that it's wrong that, you know, someone who's been here for 3 years takes the place of someone who's been here for 31 or 32 years. But you can't, like, I don't really know where I stand on it. I think 3 years is short, and I think moving it to 5 is much better, because I think after 5 years you do become naturalised in the place. But like, I don't know. Like, it sparks the question of if rugby was promoted properly in a lot of the island nations, like, how good could they be with some of the players? How good if they were, you know, with some of the players who could have stayed there and played on.
But the thing about rugby is that, like, they don't want the island nations to become strong, because they can go there, steal players at the age of 16, take them away from home, and move them to every country in the rugby playing world and steal those players. Like, it's proper old school colonialism of the worst kind, and rugby does not want that to be interrupted. I kind of think that if you live in a country and you're willing to move to a country and you're working in that country, you should have all the rights afforded to the people who are from that country. Yeah. That's my view. It's kind of like
there's very, like, us as a nation, we've done it in a lot of other countries around the world for years. Like,
so let's not be hypocrites when it comes to this.
Yeah,
would be my take on it.
The back of the Mirror today is I'm not being frozen out, Jurgen Klopp, after his agent claimed yesterday that the British weather would be the reason that he wasn't going to stay on at Liverpool. As a Liverpool fan, I am praying to God he signs a new contract.
I think that they should just give him whatever he wants. If it's like,
I don't think it's whatever he wants. I think he's quite happy. I think it'll come down to whether or not he wants a break. He's done 7 years at Mainz. He did exactly 7 years at Dortmund. At the end of 2022, he'll have done 7 years at Liverpool, I think. And it'll come down to him.
Do you give him a break and say, take a couple of years there,
come back?
Yeah, whenever you're ready, we'll have a job for you. Even if we're doing well, we'll still have a job for you.
It seems to be only the FAI that do that, I think, the succession plan. But
working.
Yeah, maybe you might give it to an assistant, but I think that's a very tough job to take for 2 years. You're not really able to put your own stamp on it. And
don't tell your man.
And everyone there is going, all right, we're just waiting for Jurgen to come back
you
around.
keep all that secret. That's strictly on the down low.
Yeah.
The back of the Guardian is the clash from last night. El Ghazi and Tyrone Mings surviving a VAR. They went to go and see exactly, because it could have been a red card for both of them, which might have turned the game somewhat. It finished 0-0. West Ham had a man sent off. They're out of the Villa are out of the relegation zone, but West Ham missed the opportunity to go third, and they weren't very good anyway.
Yeah, this year's Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer moment.
They were showing one. There was on Sky this morning. Carr had one with Arbeloa, where Arbeloa kind of backs into him, Carr pushes him, and then gets down to do that kind of, you know, the same look he had in his face when he spat at that woman?
Yeah.
Remember that? He's doing that. And straight in, Xabi Alonso, pushing Carr out of the way. I'm like, good man, Xabi Alonso.
Yeah, there was a large Spanish cohort in that team.
Yeah, and he was looking
time,
after his boy, but like...
That's, but I think it's that, like, it's high level sport, like and at that level there would be a lot of egos, I would say. Yeah,
but I mean, like, he was happy to take on Jamie Carr and he wasn't backing down.
Not a problem.
He kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. I was like, good man.
The back or the front of the sports section of the Irish Examiner today is injury headache with Henshaw and Kearney in a bit of injury bother, especially for this first game, but hopefully not for a bit more of the tournament. I think, you know, those two especially have
Kearney
been...
Misson's a disaster.
Yeah, he's
playing really well.
He has been that rock. It's quite tough now. Ireland haven't had any luck at all with injuries. The back of the Times today has a story on a private equity firm, CVC Capital, who also have a stake in the Guinness Pro 14 and the Gallagher Premiership. It's reporting that they've bought a 15% stake in the Six Nations now as well.
Yeah.
So I think they're really starting to have a bit of a footprint in rugby, and I know a lot of those leagues were looking for outside investment. So, you know, maybe it could be a good thing. And up in the top right corner, to all the Liverpool supporters in Napoli who have been told to stay in their hotel rooms. There's been a bit of talk. All right, I think may have been a small bit of trouble there last year on the away game. So.
The rugby is going to end up in a European Super League. That's like an NFL-style European Super League, which might be exactly the right thing to do. Have an Irish conference, a French conference, a Welsh conference, a Scottish conference, an English conference, and then 2 Italian teams. Let them play. You play out of conference all the time. There's enough there to make it proper 32 teams.
Yeah, they've probably reached their capacity and what they can achieve now within their own sections.
Yeah.
But it's going to raise the question of how do you regulate the owners in France with the, you know,
salary cap
in Ireland, or something.
I think
like how do you
just sign everybody up to the same rules and then audit them properly.
Yeah.
And like obviously there are teams break rules all the time. Not looking at the Patriots, but I mean, come on, Tom Brady taking below average money for all that time. But what it'll mean is that they'll actually be able to have proper player welfare. They could have like an 18 or 20 game season. The Six Nations will then be part of the season, so the clubs in the Six Nations won't be at war, because the same people will be around the same boardrooms going, well, this is when we massively make the money from the Six Nations, and this is how we try and raise the club game. So I think it's going to work.
It probably stops the friction there. All right, the back of the Daily Star today, Cloud9 again. It's a story about Jurgen Klopp and the weather. Doubts about Kearney, and up the top, we talked about the interview with Declan Darcy today, just talking about how this 5-year period has taken a lot out of Jim Gavin.
Yeah.
So, you know, when one of your selectors is coming out and saying that, it can be kind of a bit of a telltale sign.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they're all going,